You are standing in front of your bathroom mirror at 2 in the morning, water still running, and for half a second, just half a second, the face looking back at you smiles before you do. Your own mouth hasn't moved yet, but the reflections has. And somewhere deep in your chest, a part of you that has nothing to do with logic or reason is screaming that you need to run. Stop for a moment and really sit with that feeling. Not the jump scare kind of fear, not the kind that makes you laugh it off 5 seconds later. This is the slow, cold kind. The kind that creeps up your spine and settles behind your eyes and makes you question something you have trusted your entire life without ever really thinking about it. Your reflection. The one thing that has always matched you, move for move, blink for blink, since the day you were old enough to understand what a mirror even was. Why does this idea unsettle so many people so deeply? Why do stories about mirrors doing something they shouldn't spread faster and hit harder than almost any other kind of unexplained experience people report? It is not just about ghosts or shadows in the corner of a room. This is different. This is personal. Because if your reflection can act on its own, even for a second, then what does that say about the thing standing in front of it? What does that say about you? Picture this. A woman in her early 30s, living alone in a quiet apartment in the Midwest, wakes up at 3:17 in the morning, not because of a noise, but because of a feeling, a pressure, the kind you get when you sense someone is in the room even though you cannot see them yet. She turns her head toward the hallway mirror across from her bed, the one she has looked into 1,000 times without a second thought. And there, in the dim blue light coming through the blinds, her reflection is not lying down. It is sitting up, watching her, perfectly still. She would later say the worst part was not what she saw. The worst part was how long it took her brain to catch up to what her eyes were already telling her. Stories like this are not new. In fact, this fear runs so deep in human history that nearly every culture on Earth developed some kind of belief or ritual around mirrors long before anyone understood how they actually worked. Ancient Roman households covered mirrors during times of mourning because they believed a soul leaving the body could get trapped inside the glass. In parts of Eastern Europe, tradition says you should never let a baby look into a mirror before its first birthday, because a reflection can somehow steal a piece of something not yet fully formed. In Victorian England, families stopped every clock and covered every mirror the moment someone died in the house, terrified that the soul might wander into the glass instead of moving on. These were not silly superstitions built on nothing. They were built on a shared, uneasy sense that mirrors are not as simple as they appear, that they hold something, that they remember something, that maybe, just maybe, they are not one way. Here is where it gets strange, and this is the kind of detail most people have never actually heard before, so stay with me. There is a documented psychological phenomenon called the Troxler effect, discovered and studied by researchers looking into how the brain processes fixed, unchanging visual information. If you stare into a dimly lit mirror for a long enough period of time, somewhere between 3 and 10 minutes depending on the person, your brain begins to do something unexpected. It starts filling in gaps. Your peripheral vision fades out the fine details of your own face, and your brain, desperate to make sense of what it is looking at, invents new ones. People in controlled lab settings have reported watching their own reflection age decades in seconds. Others have seen the face shift into someone else entirely. Some have reported the mouth curling into a smile that was never there. Science has an explanation. But explanation does not always kill the fear. Sometimes it makes it worse, because now you know your own mind is capable of doing this to you, without your permission, without warning, in the middle of the night when you are standing 3 feet from a piece of glass with nowhere else to look. This is exactly the kind of story we dig into here on Shadowlight Stories. The moments where the line between what science can explain and what still feels genuinely wrong to us gets blurry enough to keep you up at night. If a story like this one is already sitting heavy in your chest right now, that is exactly the reaction we are going for. And if you want more of these deep dives into the things that make your skin crawl for reasons you cannot fully explain, hit subscribe, because the next case is even harder to walk away from. Now let's go back to the woman in the Midwest apartment, because her story does not end with her simply looking away and going back to sleep. She sat frozen for what she described as almost a full minute, watching her own reflection sit upright in a bed she knew, with absolute certainty, she herself was still lying in. She said the temperature in the room seemed to drop, not dramatically, just enough to notice, just enough to make the hair on her arms stand up before her mind had even fully processed what her eyes were reporting. And then, she says, the reflection turned its head toward her and smiled. Not a friendly smile. Not the kind you give a stranger who holds a door open for you. She described it later as a smile that did not belong on a human face, too wide, held a beat too long, like something wearing an expression rather than feeling one. She did not scream. She did not run. She says she simply closed her eyes, counted to 10 in her head, the way her mother taught her to do during thunderstorms as a child, and when she opened them again, the mirror showed exactly what it should have. Her, lying down, eyes wide, breathing hard, nothing more. Was it sleep paralysis? Very possibly. Sleep paralysis is far more common than most people realize, and one of its defining features is a terrifying sensation of a presence in the room, sometimes even a visual hallucination layered directly onto your real surroundings. Researchers estimate that around 8% of the general population experiences it at least once in their lifetime, and that number climbs significantly higher among people dealing with high stress, irregular sleep schedules, or anxiety disorders. The brain, caught between sleeping and waking, sometimes produces images so vivid and so convincing that the person experiencing them will swear for the rest of their life that what they saw was real. But here is the detail that makes this particular story stick with people long after they've heard it, the twist nobody expects going in. The woman was not alone in her building that week. Her neighbor, a man she barely knew beyond a polite nod in the hallway, reported almost the exact same experience 2 nights later. Different apartment, different mirror, same time, give or take a few minutes, same description. A reflection sitting up, watching, smiling. Now, coincidence is always the simplest explanation, and it is usually the right one. Shared stress, an old building with strange lighting, maybe even a story that traveled from one neighbor to the other and planted a seed neither of them consciously remembered hearing. The mind is a powerful thing, and suggestion alone can create memories that feel completely real. But even knowing all of that, even understanding the science behind it, there is still something deeply unsettling about 2 strangers, 2 different rooms, describing the exact same impossible moment down to the shape of the smile. What does a story like this actually reveal about us, underneath all the fear? Maybe it is not really about mirrors at all. Maybe it is about control, about how much of our sense of safety depends on the world behaving exactly the way we expect it to, every single time, without exception. We do not think twice about a reflection because it has never once given us a reason to. The moment it does, even for half a second, even if it turns out to be nothing more than a trick of low light and a tired brain, something fundamental cracks. Not just the belief that mirrors are safe, the belief that reality itself is reliable. That is not just a scary story. It is a quiet reminder of how thin the wall really is between what we know to be true and what we simply choose to trust without question. There is another angle to this that rarely gets talked about, and it might be the most human part of the whole thing. Almost everyone who has ever reported a strange reflection experience describes the exact same instinct in the aftermath. Not fear first, doubt first. They question themselves before they question anything else. Did I really see that? Am I remembering this right? Was I even fully awake? We are so deeply trained to trust our own eyes that when our eyes betray us, even briefly, we would rather believe we are broken than believe the world around us might be capable of something we cannot explain. So here is a question worth sitting with. The next time you catch your own reflection and something about it feels off, even for a heartbeat, even if you cannot say exactly why, what do you do? Do you look away and tell yourself it was nothing? Or do you look closer? Tell me in the comments if you have ever had a moment like this, that split second where your reflection felt like it was a beat behind, or ahead, or simply not quite yours. I want to hear the details, the time it happened, how long it lasted, whether you ever told anyone before now. Stories like these deserve to be heard, not buried, because for every person brave enough to share theirs, there are 10 more who never will. And sharing this video might be the exact thing that gives one of them the push to finally talk about what they saw. Because here is the truth this whole story keeps circling back to. A mirror has never once lied to you. Not really. It has only ever shown you exactly what you gave it, so the real question was never about the reflection at all. It was always about whether you were ready to see what was actually looking back.